Thank you for this opportunity to come and present our fiscal year 2017 budget. For those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting, I'm Cynthia Godfrey. I'm the director of Mesquite Airport. My first slide is just a cover slide to show you we meet a lot of neat people. This was a crew from a World War II bomber that came into our airport, and if you look real close in the background, that picture is our airport that they took when they were doing approaches about a year ago and sent us those photos. Oops. Just want to give you a brief history on the airport. It was built in 1975 by the Hudson family. At the time, the airport consisted of 120 acres of land, a 4,000-foot runway, 60 T-hangar units, and an avgas fuel tank. The city purchased the airport in 1983 with grant and aid money at a cost of $600,000. The airport now features 424 acres of property dedicated for airport use, a 6,000-foot concrete runway, a terminal building, additional hangars, over 250 based aircraft, and an air traffic control tower that was just built 2 years ago. The major improvements at the airport have all been done with grant and aid, or what we now call AIP, Airport Improvement Program grants. They are a 90%, 10% grant. The city's share of those grants are 10%, and those federal dollars for those grants come from the tax on aviation goods and services, not from the federal taxes you pay out of your payroll checks. The airport staff currently consists of 11 employees. The full-time are 2 people, the airport director and the operations manager. We have a part-time executive secretary, 6 part-time line service technicians, and 2 airport security technicians. The airport is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Terminal is open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. Air traffic control tower from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. We have security technicians that are on duty during the hours the terminal and tower are unmanned, and we have staff on call after hours for fueling. In 2015, the air traffic control tower had 71,172 operations. It was ranked number 240 out of 516 airports in the United States. That ranking includes the DFWs, the Chicagos, LaGuardias, all the air traffic control towers in the country, 240 out of 516. It was a 53.9% increase in the traffic from the previous year. It's approximately 195 operations a day. We were also ranked the top 5 of the reliever airports in the Dallas area as far as traffic, and the air traffic control tower informed me that they're just about finished with the June count, which should be over 300 operations a day.
What's considered an operation?
Operation is a takeoff and landing. The airport now has 162 aircraft hangars. 124 of them are currently city-owned. We have 250 base aircraft. The owned hangars generate 31% of the annual revenues. We have 30 additional hangars that will be reverting to city ownership in 2017 that used to be on a ground lease that will be reverting to city. And we have the DPS flight operations at the airport. We were able to, earlier in the year, keep the flight operations at Mesquite, providing additional public safety to our community, the Mesquite PD, and the airport. This is a brief outline of the revenues amended compared to the proposed for 2017. There's a 5.6% increase overall in the revenues this year. The biggest changes are always the hangar rent and the fuel sales. The pie here basically shows the proposed revenues of $1.672 million. It's generated mainly from fuel sales, which make up 63% of our budget, and the hangar month-to-month rental, which makes up 31% of the budget. The remaining revenues come from electrical reimbursements, ground leases, pilot supplies, in addition to the ramp grant, which will pay us up to $50,000 a year for eligible safety projects on the airfield. This is a brief rundown of the expenditures, which are just a little under the revenues this year at $1.668 million. The expenditures increased a little bit due to the replacement of 2 computers that are going to be needed. Personnel benefits and expenses have increased some. And there's a slight increase in the fuel for resale contractual services, which include the outside vendors to maintain our navigational equipment and our air traffic control equipment, which has to be certified on a yearly basis. Those are increasing about 5.4% this year. The pie shows that 44% of the expenditures are for aviation fuel, 25% for personnel services, 18% for the contractual, 12% is debt service, and the rest are just minor supplies. Because the revenue biggest generator is the fuel, I wanted to show you a 7-year chart on the fuel over the last few years since 2010. You can see that we've had a gradual decline in 100 low lead. The 2016 figure on the end only includes the fuel that has been purchased since the beginning of the year through June 23rd. So that is not a completed figure for year end. So you can see it's gradually gone down. Part of that is probably due to the high cost of fuel for the private pilot and recreational pilot, the high cost of maintenance for their aircraft, the decline in private pilots, the aging of a lot of those people over the last few years. We've seen a big turnover in some of our tenants as a result of that. The jet fuel, on the other hand, you can see is slightly increased over the years. Again, the 2016 figures only show the fuel purchased to June 23rd of this year. In 2013, we had a big spike in the jet fuel sales because we had an aircraft from a town south of us that was tankering fuel back and forth from their airport, from our airport to their airport, and buying from us directly. They made a deal with their home base, and so our fuel sales declined as a result of that. So I think they're still going up, and I think that by the end of 2016, we're going to predict that we're going to be a little higher than we were in 2015. So we hope to have a gradual increase in that. Part of the reason the jet fuel sales are going up is because of fractional ownership and people that are buying their own corporate aircraft. Business people don't want to travel on the airlines where they can't carry the equipment and things they need to do business. They don't want to go through the long security lines, neither do I. And so they are using the private jets, and we're seeing a lot more of that traffic pick up. The City Council approved a $2.7 million grant last year for aging infrastructure on the airport. It's going to include new runway lighting system, taxiway lighting, which we have never had, drainage improvements, signage updates, and a runway safety area study. The grant is, again, a 90-10 participation grant. We are doing the study for the engineering right now and expect that construction on these projects would start in the fall of 2017. As a result of the runway safety study and some of these other improvements we're doing, we're also going to be doing a minor study for a 2-, 5-, and 10-year plan for the airport that continues to go along with our airport master plan. We're also in the process of doing a required wildlife mitigation study. The FAA required all airports, reliever airports in the state, do a required study. It started in March of 2016. It was a $63,000 90-10 grant. They study the wildlife habitat over a year. They review the data and come up with recommendations to control and limit these wildlife hazards. And the company that's doing this is Environmental Resource Solutions out of Florida. And they were contracted by TxDOT as on our behalf on the federal grant. And that little critter right there is one of our little pets that was sitting on the fence of our airport. We have a couple of them out there right now.
Can they really run fast?
They really run fast and they really like snakes, which makes me really happy. This is the new corporate hangar that has been going up on the airport that the council approved about 10 months ago. It will be finished in about 2 weeks. It will generate more fuel cells, ground leases, and taxes to the city of Mesquite. It's a Citation 2 jet that you see in the foreground that is going to be operating in and out of that hangar. And these people are really satisfied customers and have been a really great marketing tool for us. We're hoping that they're going to generate more people who want to base their aircraft and build hangars at Mesquite over the next few years. And that's the end. Open for questions.
Very good, thank you. No, there's just one question right over here. Looks like you guys have to do that.
I do. I'll defer.
Yeah.
My question is unrelated to this, but I heard on local weather this morning that the Mesquite Airport had 50-mile-an-hour wind blowing out last night. Did we have any damage?
We did, but the wonderful thing is we didn't have any damage at the airport. Everything was secure, nothing, no problems at all. My neighborhood was a little different because I live 3 miles from there, but the airport did not sustain any damage.
Okay, good.
Mine is kind of related to how we market the airport.
It's basically by word of mouth. Fuel sales, we advertise on what we call AirNet and a couple other aviation websites that most pilots go to, so they're looking at fuel prices, hangar prices, and so we use those kind of aviation-related marketing tools.
And there are more local airports that are utilizing our airport for training school and training landings.
We do get a lot of training from a couple airports that are close by because they are so busy with jet traffic that they have stopped the training at their airports, so people can't do practice approaches with instruments. They can't do touch and go, so they come to our airport, which is increasing our traffic counts as well.
Any other questions? All right.
Go ahead.
All right. The contractual services, there's an increase of 22,000,
In contractual services,
roughly 8% or so.
yeah, we just negotiated a new contract for the navigational equipment. So the city owns all the navigational equipment, the ILS systems and everything. We have to have a certified person to keep those operating, pay for the flight checks that the FAA requires us to do every quarter to make sure the systems are working, and he's on call when that goes down and is required to come out and repair within a 24-hour period. We also had to contract new contractual services for the air traffic control tower. Once the equipment was past a 2-year, we have to have someone who certifies that equipment and keeps it up as well.
And in terms of this category of revenue, it says other revenues, and you're not showing any increase in that. What is the other revenue?
Basically, those are reimbursement of electrical cost, and we don't expect those will go up because the hangars that usually pay us electric will be the ones that will be reverting to our ownership, and electric is typically included in the rent then. And it's like miscellaneous pilot supplies. Pilot supplies have gone way down with the new age of technology. We don't sell charts and airway facilities directories and those kind of things anymore. People use iPads and can buy those digitally. So we don't expect an increase. We expect to be status quo on those.
Okay, and the actual number I take it from 2016 was 50,000.
For what, sir?
For the other revenue,
Was how much?
50,000.
That's probably, you're looking at the grant, the ramp grant?
That was the electric program. the 45,000 on the fuel sales that you predicted to be increased,
The fuel sales, yes. The cost of fuel has gone down considerably, so we expect to sell a little more than what we did, but because the cost is down, the selling price is down as well, so we expect that to be pretty close.
it just, what strikes me is that in your executive summary, one of the things that you cite is that the trend is down. And so I'm wondering why we're calling for an increase when the trend is down.
We're looking at the jet fuel increase, but not the 100 low leg. We do expect the jet fuel to be more than what we did the year before. And that's, I'm sorry, that's our biggest profit margin is the jet fuel.
But the jet fuel chart shows that we had less jet fuel sales in 2016 than we did in 2014.
2016 is not completed yet. We have several more months to add to that one, so we expect it to excel what we did this past year in 2015. So that's the difference in the fuel. That's the projection.
But if you're off by just a little bit, it seems to me like you're going to have to be spot on your number and hitting all of these numbers to avoid operating at a deficit.
Well, one of the things we are also looking at is the reversion of those hangars to city ownership. Those are not figured in here because they don't revert until January of 2017, and we're not sure what the rentals are going to be and how that will play out. So that rental will help us some with our budget, bottom line. Because
you've already called for me. I'm struggling to understand how this to me does not appear to be a very conservative model for budgeting. It seems to cut very close to creating a deficit, and it's dependent upon a trend that really in your own executive summary you said has been on the decline. So I'm just struggling to feel very comfortable that wouldn't be supporting a deficit budget if I supported this budget as it is.
okay.
And I would just add to that, I know I was out for a year, but in years past, we would sometimes have the general fund transfer in 50,000, 40,000, it varied, it was very close, and I understand what you're also referring to, because it's difficult to, one thing happened nationally, and the number of flights could go down for a month, and you really never know. So I think that we've always, I say always, the time that I've been involved in this council, it's been a kind of a push and shove, 2 or 3% plus or minus, but hopefully we're on the right track.
Yes.
It is close. I believe it is close. You're ready.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.